I saw my father's text. "You're not welcome," and my world tilted. Banned. From my own mother's birthday. After all I'd done. Could you believe it? Years, I tell you. Years I spent cleaning up their messes, paying off debts, patching up their strained relationships, pretending everything was perfect. And for what? A swift kick in the teeth. The rain was lashing against the windows of my apartment, mimicking the storm inside me. 2025 New York City, neon signs blurring through the downpour, reflecting in the puddles on the street below. I should have been picking out a dress, wrapping a gift, anticipating the forced smiles and polite conversations that always accompanied a family gathering. Instead, I was staring at my phone, the words, "You're not welcome," burning themselves into my memory. It all started, like most things in my family, with money. My parents, bless their hearts, had a knack for spending it faster than they could make it. Their lavish lifestyle, the country club memberships, the designer clothes. It all came crashing down around them. And who was there to pick up the pieces? Me, Sarah Walker, the responsible eldest daughter. I drained my savings, took out loans, even considered selling my apartment. Anything to keep them afloat. "Sarah, darling, you're a lifesaver," my mother had said, her voice dripping with gratitude just weeks ago when the last debt was. Now this. I scrolled through my sister Emily's Instagram feed, each picture a carefully curated snapshot of her perfect life. The yoga retreats, the organic smoothies, the adoring boyfriend, Liam. He was always there, a silent presence, smiling politely, offering compliments that felt rehearsed. I never paid him much attention. He was just Emily's latest accessory, the e-print. Walker Tech, my pride and joy. I'd built it from the ground up, a small startup that had blossomed into a major player in the AI security field. Sleep-deprived and fueled by coffee, I walked into the office, expecting the usual Monday morning chaos. Instead, there was a different kind of chaos, a buzz, an excitement I couldn't quite place. My assistant Maria practically vibrated as I approached her desk. "Sarah, have you met the new CEO?" "New CEO?" I frowned. "What are you talking about? I'm the CEO." Maria's eyes widened. "Interim CEO. The board decided to bring in someone with fresh perspective." My stomach plummeted. Interim, fresh perspective, code for "they want me out." "Who is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Maria pointed towards my office, where a figure was silhouetted against the panoramic city view. "He's waiting for you." My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. What kind of nightmare was this? A nightmare orchestrated by my own family? I pushed the door open. He turned around. Liam, Emily's Liam. He smiled, that same polite practice smile. "Hi, boss." Could you believe it? My sister's boyfriend, the guy I'd barely acknowledged, was now my boss, at my company, the company I'd bled for, the company my parents had almost bankrupted. This couldn't be happening. "Liam," I choked out, my voice barely audible. "Please call me Mr. Hayes," he said, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite decipher. Triumph? Pity? Something else entirely. "What is going on?" I demanded. "The board was looking for someone with experience in AI security," he said smoothly. "And I just happened to be available." "But, Emily," I stammered. "She didn't say anything." "Emily doesn't know," he replied, his smile widening. "And I'd prefer it if she stayed that way." My mind was racing. Emily didn't know? How was that possible? And why was he keeping it a secret? "What do you want?" I asked, cutting to the chase. "I want Walker Tech to reach its full potential," he said, his voice suddenly serious. "And I believe I'm the man to make that happen." "And what about me?" I challenged. "You'll stay on as head of research and development," he said. "Under my supervision, of course." Under his supervision, I nearly laughed. This was insane. Utterly, completely insane. I walked out of my office, my head spinning. Rain was still falling outside. I felt as though I was living in a bad movie. Was he using my sister? Was my family involved? How could this be happening? Could I trust him? That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Watch your back, Sarah. He's not who you think he is." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Who sent it? And what did they know? I started with Liam. A quick search online revealed very little. No social media presence, no professional website, just a few vague mentions in industry articles. It was as if he deliberately erased himself from the internet. Then I looked into his qualifications. He claimed to have a PhD in artificial intelligence from MIT, but I couldn't find any record of his dissertation or any publications under his name. Something was definitely off. I decided to confide in my best friend, Chloe. We met at a cafe with free Wi-Fi and glass walls, the perfect place for discreet conversations. I told her everything, from my father's text to Liam's sudden appearance as my boss. "This is crazy, Sarah," Chloe said, her eyes wide with disbelief. "He's definitely hiding something." "That's what I think too," I said. "But what? And why?" "Maybe he's after Walker Tech," Chloe suggested. "Maybe he wants to steal your technology or sell the company." "That's possible," I admitted. "But there's something else, something personal about this. It feels like a vendetta." Chloe paused, tapping her nails on the table. "Have you considered that your parents might be involved?" "No way," I said, shaking my head. "They might be irresponsible, but they wouldn't do something like this." But deep down, I wasn't so sure. They were desperate for money, and Liam seemed to have plenty of it. Was it possible they'd made a deal with him, sacrificing my career to save themselves? That night, I decided to hack into Liam's computer. I know, it's not ethical, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know the truth. It took hours, but The files on his computer were heavily encrypted, but I managed to find a hidden folder labeled Project Nightingale. Inside, there were documents detailing a hostile takeover of Walker Tech, orchestrated by a shell corporation based in the Cayman Islands. My blood ran cold. Liam wasn't just trying to take over my company, he was planning to destroy it. But the most shocking discovery was a series of emails between Liam and my father. They were discussing the deal, the money, and my role in the whole thing. My father knew. He'd been working with Liam all along. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. My own father betraying me like this. How could he? I confronted him I found him at the country club, sipping cocktails by the pool. "Dad," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "I know about Liam. I know about Project Nightingale. I know you've been working with him." He looked at me, his face pale. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain what?" I demanded. "Explain how you could betray me like this? After everything I've done for you?" "We needed the money," he said weakly. "We were desperate." "So you sold me out?" I said, my voice rising. "You sold my company, my career, my life?" He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he mumbled. "Then how was it supposed to happen?" I screamed. "You were going to let him destroy everything I've worked for?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. I stormed out of the country club, tears streaming down my face. I felt like my entire world was crumbling around me. I knew I had to stop Liam. But how? He was the CEO. He had the board on his side, and he had my own father in his pocket. I decided to fight fire with fire. I contacted a cybersecurity expert, a friend of Chloe's, and asked him to help me expose Liam's scheme. He agreed, and together we started to unravel the web of deceit. We tracked the money trail to the Cayman Islands, we uncovered the Shell Corporation, and we gathered evidence of Liam's fraudulent qualifications. It was a risky game, but I was determined to win. I wasn't going to let Liam destroy Walker Tech, and I wasn't going to let my father get away with his betrayal. One evening, I received another anonymous message. This time, it was a picture of Emily looking terrified, standing in front of a building I didn't recognize. The message read, "Back off, Sarah, or she gets hurt." My blood turned to ice. Liam had Emily. He was using her to blackmail me. I knew I couldn't go to the police. Liam was too powerful. He had too many connections. I had to rescue Emily myself. I spent the I analyzed the picture, looking for clues. It was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. I grabbed my coat and raced out the door. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew I had to save Emily. When I arrived at the warehouse, it was dark and deserted. The only sound was the wind whistling through the broken windows. I cautiously made my way inside, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear voices in the distance. I followed the sound and found myself in a large, open space. Liam was standing there, holding Emily at gunpoint. "Sarah," he said, his voice cold and menacing. "I was wondering when you'd show up." "Let her go, Liam," I said, my voice trembling. "Not until you sign over your shares in Walker Tech," he replied. "You'll never get away with this," I said. "I already have," he said, his eyes glinting with madness. "I won't sign anything," I said, my voice firm. Liam tightened his grip on Emily. She cried out in pain. I knew I had to do something, and fast. I scanned the room, looking for a weapon. I spotted a metal pipe leaning against a wall. I took a deep breath and lunged for it. Liam saw me coming and fired his gun. The bullet whizzed past my head. I swung the pipe and hit him in the arm. He dropped the gun and staggered back. I grabbed Emily and pulled her behind me. "Run!" I shouted. We ran out of the warehouse and into the night. I could hear Liam chasing after us. We managed to escape, but I knew he wouldn't give up. He would come after us again. I went to the police and gave them all the evidence I had. They arrested Liam and charged him with kidnapping, extortion, and fraud. My father was also arrested for his role in the scheme. He faced charges of conspiracy and fraud. Emily was safe, but she was traumatized. She couldn't believe that Liam, the man she loved, had betrayed her so completely. The board of Walker Tech fired Liam and reinstated me as CEO. I was back in control of my company, but the experience had changed me. I realized that money wasn't everything. Family was more important. But how could I ever trust my family again? The trial was a media circus. Liam and my father pleaded not guilty, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. They were both convicted and sentenced to prison. Emily and I started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, but we were determined to move forward. I also learned the truth about why my father banned me from my mother's birthday. He was ashamed of what he'd done, and he didn't want me to see him. My mother knew more than she said. She had suspected my father was involved with something shady, but she hadn't known the extent of his betrayal. The experience had shattered my family, but it had also made us stronger. We learned to communicate, to trust each other, and to forgive. I decided to sell Walker Tech. The company was tainted by the scandal, and I wanted to start fresh. I used the money to pay off my parents' debts and to help Emily start a new life. I moved to a small town and started a new business, a non-profit organization that helps victims of financial fraud. I had learned that revenge wasn't the answer. Forgiveness was the only way to heal. Could I forgive my father? Could I forgive Liam? It was a difficult decision, but ultimately, I chose forgiveness. I realized that holding on to anger and resentment would only hurt me in the long run. Forgiving them allowed me to move on and find happiness. Several years later, I received a letter from my father. He was in prison and he was dying. He asked me to visit him. I hesitated, but then I decided to go. I owed it to myself and to him. When I arrived at the prison, he was frail and weak, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. "Sarah," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." "I know, Dad," I said. "I forgive you." He smiled, a genuine smile, and then he closed his eyes and died. I walked out of the prison, feeling a sense of closure. I learned a valuable lesson from this experience. Trust is fragile, betrayal is painful, but forgiveness is possible. And now I ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have chosen revenge or forgiveness? Write what you'd choose. I hope you enjoyed my story. If you did, please like and subscribe for more true crime-inspired tales. Visiting my dad in prison, seeing him so broken. It was heartbreaking, even after everything. It made me think about Emily. She was trying so hard to move on, but Liam's betrayal had left a deep scar. She started seeing a therapist, someone who specialized in helping people recover from toxic relationships. I encouraged her every step of the way, trying to be the supportive sister she deserved. We spent hours talking, reminiscing about our childhood and planning for the future. We even started taking a pottery class together. Remember those old movies where sisters always had some shared hobby? We were trying to find ours. One day, Emily came to me with a proposition. "Sarah," she said, "I've been thinking. Maybe we should start a business together." I was surprised. Emily had always been more interested in yoga and organic farming than entrepreneurship. "What kind of business?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, shrugging. "Something meaningful, something that helps people." We brainstormed for weeks, tossing around ideas like a sustainable clothing line, a vegan bakery, and a wellness retreat. Nothing felt quite right. Then, one afternoon, we were volunteering at a local homeless shelter, serving meals to people in need. As I looked around at the faces of the people we were helping, an idea struck me. "What about a job training program?" I suggested. "We could teach homeless people valuable skills, like computer programming or carpentry, and help them find employment." Emily's eyes lit up. "That's it," she exclaimed. "That's exactly what we should do." We secured funding from local charities and government grants, and we recruited a team of experienced instructors. We named our organization Second Chance. It was cheesy, I know, but it felt right. We opened our doors in a small rented space in a low-income neighborhood. Our first class consisted of 5 students, all eager to learn. We taught them basic computer skills, like how to use email, create a resume, and search for jobs online. Slowly but surely, our students began to find employment. They got jobs as receptionists, data entry clerks, and customer service representatives. I remember one student in particular, a young woman named Maria. She had been homeless for years, struggling with addiction and mental health issues, but she was determined to turn her life around. She excelled in our computer programming class, and she landed a job as a junior developer at a tech company. She came to me one day, tears streaming down her face, and thanked me for giving her a second chance. "I don't know what I would have done without you," she said. "You saved my life." Moments like that made all the hardship worthwhile. Working with Emily on Second Chance brought us even closer. We learned to rely on each other, to support each other, and to forgive each other. We realized that our family, despite its flaws, was worth fighting for. One evening, I was working late at the office when I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering it. "Hello," I said. "Sarah Walker," a voice said on the other end. "Yes, speaking." "This is Detective Miller with the New York Police Department." My heart skipped a beat. "What's this about?" I asked. "We need you to come down to the station," Detective Miller said. "We have some questions for you." I drove to the police station, my mind racing. Had something happened to Emily? Had Liam escaped from prison? Detective Miller led me to an interrogation room and sat me down at a table. "Ms. Walker," he said, "we're investigating a series of cyber attacks on several major corporations." "Cyber attacks?" I said, confused. "What does this have to do with me?" "Our investigation has revealed that the attacks originated from an IP address registered to your home network," Detective Miller said. I stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible," I said. "I would never do anything like that." "We have evidence to suggest otherwise," Detective Miller said. "We found traces of malicious software on your computer." I felt a wave of panic wash over me. Someone was trying to frame me, but who and why? I thought back to Liam. Could he be behind this? Was he trying to get revenge on me, even from prison? "I think you should talk to my lawyer," I said. Detective Miller nodded. "That's your right," he said. I called Chloe, who put me in touch with a criminal defense attorney. His name was Mr. Davis, and he was one of the best in the city. He listened to my story and assured me that he would do everything he could to clear my name. My home was searched, my computers were confiscated, and I was constantly questioned by the police. The media got wind of the story, and I was plastered all over the news. People were calling me a cyber criminal, a traitor, and everything in between. I felt like my life was being torn apart all over again. Mr. Davis worked tirelessly to defend me. He hired a team of forensic experts to analyze my computers and trace the origin of the cyber attacks. They discovered that someone had hacked into my home network and used my IP address to launch the attacks. They were able to identify the hacker, but they couldn't prove who had hired him. I was eventually cleared of all charges, but the damage had been done. My reputation was tarnished, and my business was struggling. People were afraid to associate with me, afraid of being caught up in the scandal. Emily stood by me throughout the entire ordeal. She supported me emotionally, financially, and professionally. She helped me rebuild my business and restore my reputation. We discovered it was a rival cybersecurity firm, envious of my success, that paid Liam to frame me. Now this. I was invited to speak at a tech conference, focusing on cybersecurity. But will they listen to the accused? What would you do in my place? Standing on that stage, bathed in the spotlight, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. The faces in the audience were a blur, but I knew they were listening. To my story, to my truth. I spoke about betrayal, about forgiveness, about the importance of resilience. I spoke about the cyber attacks, about my family, about second chance. I spoke about hope. When I finished, the audience erupted in applause. It wasn't just polite clapping. It was genuine, heartfelt appreciation. People were moved by my story, inspired by my courage. As I walked off the stage, Emily was waiting for me, her eyes shining with pride. "You were amazing, Sarah," she said, hugging me tightly. "You really inspired people." I smiled. It felt good, really good. Second Chance flourished. We expanded our program, opened new locations, and helped hundreds of people find employment and a better life.